Hi, Delta. Delighted to be chatting with such a prolific and best-selling author. Myself and Steve Evans here.
Hi, Delta.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
meet
much.
you. Yeah, really good to meet you. So you're in sunny Florida. You only been there 6 months, haven't you? So how is it compared to Virginia then?
Virginia actually has seasons. Florida has warm, hot, and hotter. I have to tell you, I rather like it. We don't, if it rains, it usually does it at nighttime, unless we're having a hurricane, but those are kind of fun. But I'm a storm child, so I'm not the best person to judge for that. And you know, I love it. It's somebody said, "Oh, you'll get tired of the good weather all the time." Not so far. It's
No,
you get up, it's a beautiful day, and you don't go, "Oh darn, it's a beautiful day." You get up and go, "Yes, the sun is out, the sky is blue." Bro, so
yeah. I would love it. Sun all the time. I just love sun. It's somewhere I haven't been ever to Florida, and
well,
I
if you
should do
come
really
down
because I
this
love
way,
sun. Yeah.
holler. We will be happy to meet with you. We live probably 10 minutes away from the Intercoastal Waterway.
Wow.
So, if I need inspiration or I need to relax or I need to do something, um, my assistant and we grab our dogs, we get in the car, and we go drive along the waterway. It's magical. That's all I can say is it's magical.
Okay, so you've just well, we've established you like walking your dogs,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
basset hounds, and you like
Mhm.
to go for walks and horse riding and whitewater rafting, I believe. So you're quite sporty
Yes,
then.
yes. I love whitewater rafting. I'm a whitewater junkie.
Wow.
It is
Isn't it a
so
bit
much fun.
dangerous? Dangerous.
Can be if you're trying to navigate waters that you're not experienced enough to do. Rapids are classified
Yeah.
differently from a class one, which is basically kind of a big ripple, to a class six, which is crashing through um, down the Snake River. And I used to live in the Pacific Northwest, and there's a lot of great whitewater there. And I just fell in love with it. Had oodles of fun. So
Yep. Delta, looking at the bio on your excellent website, deltajames.com, you mentioned creating a second chapter in your life. Can you tell us
mhm,
anything about the first chapter?
Yeah, I
the
wondered
first
about that as well.
Yeah.
the first chapter was kind of, you grow up and you think, I have to get a job, I have to work, I have to do this. And I did. I started out life as a legal assistant, and then went to work for and worked a lot in nonprofits after that, and then worked in healthcare. And I really enjoyed it, and I really had a good time. But it was basically you get up, you go to work, you come home. It was a normal job. There was nothing wrong. It wasn't bad. I didn't have a bad childhood or any of that kind of crap. But I had found that I was this sort of cycle. About every 3 to 5 years, my whole life would fall apart. And I thought, I got to break that. I got to stop. And so went, I was working for a company that had um, branches all over the United States. And one of them was in basically Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I was born. And I thought, be a good break. So I applied for the job. They gave it to me. And I basically told everybody in my life in the Pacific Northwest, I gave everybody 2 weeks' notice. Said you can still contact me, but I'm going to move to and they're all like, oh my God, you're so brave. And I'm like, it's North Carolina, people, not outer Mongolia. And people would say, well, what happens if you don't like it? And I'd say, then I'd find somewhere else to live. And so I did. I moved to North Carolina. I loved North Carolina, met some lovely, wonderful people. Um, and one night I was sitting in my living room and I thought, what happened to the girl whose motto was fortune favors the bold? How did I lose her? And there's lots of reasons why you lose that. But the number one reason is fear. You figure out there are things to fear and you start fearing things, losing things more than looking forward to gaining other things. And I thought, I want her back. I don't want to be this person anymore. So I thought, okay, how are you going to do that? What's that going to do? What's that look like? The first thing was I quit making decisions based in fear. That doesn't mean I don't look at things that could happen and try and avoid them. It just means that fear is not the overriding thing. Oh, well, I can't do that because this might happen. Well, let's give it a try and see if it does and adjust from there. And I thought, okay, then what do you want to do? What have you always wanted to do that you've never done? And I thought, I've always wanted to be a novelist. That was a real dream of mine when I was younger. And so literally that night, I sat down and started writing my first book. That was in October of 2017.
Hmm.
On Thanksgiving Day 2017, a publisher I had submitted it to accepted the book. It was under a different pen name. And in late January of 2018, my first book came out, and I published 6 books under that pen name, and then switched pen names, switched publishers in June of 2018, and in April of 2019, I was able to kiss my day job goodbye and write full time.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
It is.
That's
And
awesome.
and I'm 60, so my biggest thing is I want to tell women, because men too, they'll say, well, it's too late for me. You know, I'm too old. Can't do that. Yeah, you can. I did. And, you know, I didn't have a family. I didn't have anybody else I could depend on. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I had a lot of people tell me I was crazy. But I'm not saying that they weren't right about that, by the way. But I just decided that was something I wanted to do. And I was going to pursue it. And then when I started getting good reviews and people wanted my books, I thought, damn, I could make a living at this. And so I walked away in April 2019 with a lot of people because they didn't know what I wrote. Because when you write steamy novels,
Oh, yeah.
people will tell you, use a pen name and don't tell anybody where you work, what you do. Because
Delta. We had to chat with a lady who wrote her first Stevie novel, and she wouldn't come on live. She wouldn't show her face on the camera. She wanted to sort of keep it hidden, and she was like an avatar. Like we were talking to a cat for 30 minutes because she
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to keep
really
her identity
strange.
secret.
Yeah, it's really
yeah,
strange,
it's
but I understand why. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I know people who have lost jobs and been blackballed in the industry.
What?
And I have to tell you, before I walked away from my day job, I was that way. I wouldn't have done something like this, or I would have been very reticent about doing it. But once I walked away, this is what I do. There's nobody who can retaliate against me, you know. And the funny thing was to find out when I gave my notice and everything, people would say, well, what are you going to do? And I'd say, I'm going to be a novelist. And they'd say, well, you know, that's really good. And it's like, no, actually, I'm making more money doing that right now than I am working for you. So, and then they'd say, well, do you write under your, do you sell on Amazon? Yes. Well, do you use your own name? No. Well, what do you write? And I'd say Delta James. And I can't tell you the number of people went, oh my God, I read you. I read your stuff. In fact, one of the people I supervised went, you're into that kinky stuff? And I was like, yes, I am. And she's like, oh my God. So the last 2 days on my job, I spent basically signing paperbacks for people,
Brilliant.
signing autographs, which is the weirdest thing on earth when somebody says, would you sign this for me? And you're like, sure, I'm just like a regular person and I'm happy to do that for you. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I enjoyed it, and I enjoy meeting people. I think that that's one of the secrets to my success. A lot of novelists are very introverted. In case you missed it, I'm not. And so I just connected with my readers. And the first time I went to a conference, a reader conference, I thought, oh my God, I could get seriously addicted to this. And the running joke is that it's my crack cocaine. I mean, at the end of the day, I am so high after a reader conference, I can't tell you. I'm just like, I just have a ball. I mean, I absolutely love it. I'm known to meet with readers that say, oh, I'm coming close to your town. It's like, you want to come by the house? You want to meet for a meal? And they're like, seriously? I'm like, yeah. You know, and we do, and we have fun. I mean, we just have a good time. I have to warn people when they first meet the dogs. We have 4 bassets. And I always have to warn people, if the only time you see my bassets is the first 5 minutes you come to my house, you'll think, good God, how does she live with all those dogs? Give it 5 minutes, and I'm going to try and turn my thing. This is what you get.
Yeah. Comfortable?
Yes, always
Yeah.
comfortable.
Mine are like
So-
that first 5 minutes, then they calm down. Everyone thinks, how can you cope with them? But they're exactly the same. Yeah,
Yeah.
once they settle down. Yeah.
When people talk to me, beginner writers or people who've been writing or whatever, you know, how do you do it? And there's no easy way to do it. It's hard work and you have to put the work in. But it's the most rewarding and most fun job I've ever had. I started out thinking I'm writing steamy novels. I'm just entertaining people. That's all I'm doing. I'm entertaining people. And then I started getting Facebook messages and emails from people saying, your book changed my life. And I'm thinking, how does a book about wolf shifters change your life? But they draw from the characters and they draw from the experiences, they draw from the attitude. And so, yes, it is about entertaining people, but I have to tell you, when I get those emails or those messages, I'm very humbled to know that I could touch somebody on such a profound level. Is pretty amazing to me.
I mean, these chats we have are normally pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
You know, an author talking about their debut novel or a couple of latest releases or whatever, but it's been tricky with you because how many have you got? Is it 146 titles or something already?
Well, it's my actual 100th book that isn't a co-write or isn't in an anthology or something like that comes out in May of this year, and I'm planning a big splash right now. If you were in the reader group, every day you get what book that is. It starts with the first one and then it counts its way down. We're counting down to 100. So we have a big celebration planned for it, and I'm just having a lot of fun with it.
Well,
But
it's incredible that you've got so many in such a short space of time.
yeah.
You're doing so well. You've obviously found the right note somewhere,
Yeah.
and at the same time, you haven't managed to get any stalkers or people get into you as if to say you must be the person in the book. So because it must be scary at times. You must get some of that.
yeah, I do get some of that, and I basically, honestly, I just kind of ignore it. I'm not really all that concerned about it. I guess maybe I should be, but I'm not. But generally, they go away if you ignore them. They're looking for that, you know,
Yeah,
that they want to feed on that
yeah.
fear. And when your response is, well,
You
that's
want a
nice.
reaction.
I've seen better. My thing is, if I get the dick pics, I write them back and say, I've seen better. You know, and that sort of deters them from wanting to have anything to do with me. You know, I'm a mean, feisty old broad. What can I tell you? But you know, it's yes, yeah, I get a few of those, but I have so many more people who have reached out, and especially during COVID, were saying, "Oh God, your books are really saving me," because they were entertaining. That you could get them in KU for $10 a month and be entertained. I try to write stories that are entertaining and adventurous and allow you to go places maybe you've never been. I don't write superheroes, but my women aren't wimps either. I had somebody once say to me, one of my favorite things somebody said to me early on was, she said, you know, a lot of heroines that I read, I think I put them up on a pedestal, but I think, yeah, I could never be her. You know, I'm not that. Whatever that is, I'm not it. My girls, it's like she said, but your girls, I want to like go have brunch with them. Sit down and have margaritas and nachos. I want to hang out with them. And I think my women and my men as well in the books are more approachable. I think people feel like they can relate better to them, even though some of them are some kind of shifter, big cat shifter or wolf shifter or bear shifter. They feel like they can connect with you. And I like that.
You write across several genres, all with the dominance romance themes. There's paranormal, contemporary, westerns, suspense. Have you got favorites amongst them? It sounds like you mentioned in the paranormal a couple of times. Is that your favorite genre?
It's honest to God, it depends on my mood. And I think some people would say, oh, they're very different. Not really. It wouldn't take much for me to take one of my wolf shifter books and make it just a straight contemporary romantic suspense. It wouldn't take much for me to take one of the romantic suspense ones, even one of the Western ones, and make it paranormal. My paranormal is part of the setting versus the focus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's always an element of suspense. There's always an element of danger, because I find that easy to write, and frankly, it's what I like to read. And so it's like I have a couple of lanes, but they're like right next to each other, and my readers will go back and forth. I have a lot of readers who will say to you, "I don't read paranormal romance," and they say, "Well, you read Delta." And they're like, "Okay, I read Delta's paranormal romance, but I don't read anybody else's."
So what was your best selling then? Which your best selling genre would you say, or is that similar?
Yeah, well, it depends. Well, okay, let me back up. I was gonna say my two best-selling books are paranormal. One is a cat shifter in Ireland. He's a black leopard shifter, and he's mafia. He's a mafia guy. And I started to write. I was invited to write in a mafia anthology, and I thought, I don't write mafia. I just don't. But I have this kind of idea for a great story, and the hero inside my head kept saying, "You need to tell my story. You need to write my story." And I'm like, "I don't write mafia. I don't give a shit. You need to write my story." And so he finally just kept bugging me until I did. And I literally wrote a 50,000 something word novel in 4 days.
Wow. So
Yeah,
long
I
that.
was writing literally 12 hours a day. I couldn't do anything but write.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
That's what Emma's doing at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were introduced to you
that's
from our friend Emma Bruce, because I know that you, well,
yes.
you mentioned before, you get loads of feedback from your readers and you interact closely with them.
Mhm. I do. I interact with them, and I get approached by beginning writers or writers who are not having success, and they're always surprised I answer them. It's like, well,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I? I'm like a person just like you.
Yeah.
Part of the thing I think with my readers and with other authors is, with some authors, there's this idea that you're the author and they're the fan. I hate the term fan. I can't tell you how much I hate the term fan.
Yeah.
There's too much of a power differential there that I'm really uncomfortable with. So I'm the reader, or I'm the writer, you're the reader, and we have a symbiotic relationship. You don't have anything to read if I don't write it. I don't have a business if you don't read it. We're interdependent. We are locked into an interdependent relationship. I honor that. I make sure I honor that. I try never to insult my readers. I try to put out the absolute best book I can. The problem is with a lot of beginner readers, and this was not the case with Emma, they think there's a magic bullet. They think I can tell them this pearl of wisdom and ta-da! The heavens will open and the angels will sing and success will be theirs. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I work really hard. One of the things I did early on was hire an assistant to run all of my marketing. And she does. And so when people try to ask me marketing questions, I'm like, yeah, I don't know that. That's Renee's job. And they think I'm either being coy or I don't want to share with them or this or that. But I will tell you guys, the honest to God truth is, Renee and I early on defined our relationship. I write them, she sells them. That's how it works. I don't tell her how to do her job. She doesn't tell me how to do mine.
Yeah, you need to share the workload, don't you, when you've got a lot going
absolutely.
on? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think you can write as prolifically as I do if you're having to do all the marketing as well.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I don't know how Emma managed to write 10,000 words just yesterday alone. She was hoping to do the same today. I think that's a tall order, but I think she can do it for 1 or 2 days. But any longer than that must be tough. I mean, you've obviously done similar.
Well, I write probably a really easy. I'm really being a slacker today. Is 5,000 words. The norm is
some word count.
7,000 to 8,000 words a day. That's easy for me. I can do 10 pretty easily. I was laughing the other day with Renee about a novella, and somebody had said to her, has Delta started that yet? And she said, don't worry about it. They're like, well, it's got to be, between 10 and 15,000 words. And she turned and looked at one and she goes, look, she can do 10 to 15,000 words easy in 2 days. If pressed, she can do it in 1. So let her alone.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
It is.
Mighty impressive. Yeah.
But again, I can work 10 to 12 hours a day. I've got a publicity assistant. I have a personal assistant who's my best friend. We share a house together. She does all of the cooking and everything else. Plus, she does all of my author reading. She's the first person who reads anything I write. And she reads it as I'm writing. I send her like 2 chapters at a time. So if I'm starting to go off or if something doesn't resonate, she can say, I think you're missing the mark here, or but you said this in a different book, or so it really helps to have that literally immediate feedback. I always laugh. Somebody said to me once, well, you and Chris never argue. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed because we have shouting matches. but they're never somebody said, so you guys get angry with each other. It's like, no, we don't. We argue about the books. We never make you statements. She might say, I think that's stupid. I think what you wrote is stupid, but she doesn't say to me, you're stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Or I can say to her, I think you're wrong, but I don't tell her she's stupid. It's never personal. It's about the work.
Sounds healthy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's incredibly helpful. The fact is, I don't have to do anything but write. The whole business is getting big enough that Renee is starting to use Chris for some of the things she needs done, and she's doing more and more for me. And so just recently, this sounds hysterical. One, we have a cleaning woman, but we just bought a Roomba. One of those robot vacuum things.
Oh, yeah.
And it runs every night at 2:00 in the morning through the house. And because we have 4 dogs, so we have dog
hairs. Yeah.
And and so Chris was like driving herself crazy trying to keep the house vacuumed. And I said, this is stupid. Let's buy a Roomba. She's like, no, we don't need. And it's like, oh, that's bullshit. Let's just get a Roomba. And like the 3rd day, and she was like, okay, this was a really good idea. So,
paid off. Yeah.
get used to those kind of things, and we just have fun. I mean, like I said, I tell people it's really hard work, but if you're writing something you love and it's working for you, then it's the best job you'll ever have.
Dave, you've written all these great books. Have you had any approaches from film companies, Netflix, or anybody like that yet? Or
oh God, I wish that's like the dream. I mean, if somebody came to me,
right,
I would be all over that. And I have a couple of things that I think would work really, really well on film, and I think people would enjoy. I think doing some of the shifter books where somebody shifts from human to animal would be more difficult to do, but they have an awful lot of special effects these days.
Animation, maybe?
Yeah, I would be, honestly, if somebody's out there listening and goes, gee, I wonder if she'd, yeah, you bet.
Brilliant.
I would love to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably be pretty geeky the first time going, oh, Jesus, because I can do that.
Oh.
I remember the first time I had a book that went live on Amazon. I literally stayed up till midnight and waited. And of course, it didn't come right at midnight. It's like 12:10.
Yeah.
But, and I was freaked out the whole 10 minutes going, oh my God, something's happened. It's not going to go live,
Yeah.
And when it did, I literally screamed. Fortunately, I lived on a 1-acre parcel in a single residence house. I woke my dogs up and they went, what? And then they looked at me and they were, you're just weird. Don't make no loud noise like that. But it was a thrill. And you'd think at this point I'd go, oh, it's just another book coming out. No, it isn't. I get pretty excited about all of them.
Even now.
And
Yeah.
From me anyway, I've got a quick one for you. Any advice you'd give to a new writer then? You must speak to them all the time, and well, obviously you like to.
Yeah, I do. It's hard work. Put in the work. Hone your craft, and you cannot publish and be successful without a professional editor.
Yeah.
Your great Aunt Mary, who was an English teacher 20 years ago, cannot edit your novel. And when you find an editor, you need an editor that understands your genre. In other words, I don't want a horror editor doing my romance novels. They're not going to understand what's going on. So it's really important. Reach out and talk to people, figure out what you want to do. But the first question you have to ask yourself, is this a hobby or is this my profession? Because that will drive every decision you make after that.
Interesting, isn't it?
Brilliant advice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned make sure you get the right person to edit it, because so many people go, I'll just get someone who's really good at editing and that'll do. Where obviously it doesn't, as you've proved.
Yeah.
And you want to actually, you want to work with an editor who wants to work with you, and you want to work with the same editor. I hear people, oh, I like to work with lots of different editors. Why? Because if you work with the same editor, they know your books, they know your voice, they know a lot about your stuff. You know, so I would be, I've been very blessed with my editor. So I have an editing schedule, and when I do it, we start with the release date. Then I need to know what day we need to get it up on Amazon. I know how long I need to edit it, and then I go back and Lori puts in, Lori's my editor, what date I need to have it to her by. And then that way, my marketing person, my editor, myself, and my cover person, because I sent her a copy of it, all know when things are coming. It's not like a surprise.
And very organized. Yeah. Listen, this has been an absolute blast chatting with you. Really appreciate your time.
It really has been.
I've had a great time. Anytime you guys want.
I was just going to ask that. We might hold you to that, Delta.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Please do. Seriously, if you guys need, somebody cancels and you're like, oh God, they canceled. It's 15 minutes till showtime. It takes me about 10 minutes to put on makeup, and then I'm all yours.
I'm making a note. That's brilliant. Really appreciate that. Thanks for that, Delta.
Excellent. It's brilliant. Yeah.
But for now, thank you very much. Let's keep in touch.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you indeed.
Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Brilliant. Thanks, Delta.
Thank you.